to CSS selector. So CSS as in cascading style sheet. All right. So this is one of the locator which we use to locate the element. Right now, there are ways how do we use this CSS selector. So let me just take the example of a website, right? And before that, let's say if you want to use ID, and let's say there is an ID on that web element available, and you want to use CSS selector. So how can I use that? I will have to use hash, and then the ID of that web element, hash ID. And if there is a class name available for that web element, I will have to use dot and then class, right? And if these two attributes are not there, then I can write like tag name followed by your attribute name equal to your value. Okay, so this is another way of creating your CSS. And let's say if I am trying to use multiple attributes there, then how can I use that? So it's again like I will have to club attribute 1, attribute 2, attribute 3 like this, and then I can use. So let's say here I am having attribute 1 and then value 1. Sorry. And here I am having attribute 2, value 2, and here I am having attribute 3 and value 3. Likewise, I can create multiple attributes, right? So there is a difference if you see with the XPath. In XPath, we are using double forward slash, right? But in CSS, we are not using any sort of double forward slash. And when we write attribute name equal to attribute value within the square brackets, we are using @ right? In case of XPath, here we are not using any @ right? And then the attribute value is fine. So attribute value would be in the single quotes, right? So this is what is the difference with XPath, right? If you talk about CSS. And there are two other ways. If I already have the ID, I can use CSS selector for that ID. Even though ID, I can use ID also, but specifically if I am looking to use CSS, so how can I use that? I will have to use hash symbol and followed by the ID of the web element. And similarly for class name, I will have to use dot symbol and followed by the class name of the variable. So let's try that CSS. So let me open the Facebook. Okay, so okay, and let's say I am trying to locate some of the web element here. I don't have ID here. Okay, yeah, here I have the ID in this input box. So let's try to use CSS for this instead of ID. So facebook.com driver.find element. What is the difference between find element and find elements?
Find element will return only one element. Find elements will return set of
all the elements.
All the elements of what?
Of the tag, like example. To give the tag name, it will return all the links.
Okay, let's say I have a locator which is common for for let's say 5 elements in the web page. So if I use find element, what I will get? If I use find elements, what I will get?
Find element will take the first one, the first occurring tag,
Okay.
first element, and filed elements will display all the 5 elements
All the
in
5
that group.
elements. Okay. Directly it will display. You will have to put some logic there, Sitara.
We will use list because since we have multiple elements, it will be stored in an list.
It will be stored in a list. Okay. And then you will have to iterate that list, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Naresh, is Sitara right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So this time I have used CSS selector for my email ID. Okay, now let's use CSS selector for my password. Let's see if I am having class name here. So yeah, class name is here. So CSS selector dot and then this and then send keys. Then let's say 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Okay. So I have used email and then I have used class name. Now let's write our customized CSS selector. So let's say I am trying to click on this login button. So for login button, how would I write customized CSS, guys? Let's say I'm trying to write the CSS for this login button. How would I write? You want to see the formula first?
The class name?
No, not class name and not ID. Okay. Just a customized. Okay. This is direct, right? Using ID and using class name. But this let's say I don't have ID or I don't have class name, and still I am looking to write a CSS for that. How will I do that? So tag name, right? First tag name is my button. Then attribute, what is the attribute I am using? Let's say I am using name. Okay. And then login. Yeah. Right. So I can get this, right? 1 of 1. Yeah. So this is my CSS for login. Okay. Driver dot find element by dot CSS. Then and what I am trying to do on dot login, let's say I am trying to get the text of that login button. Okay, because if I click on that, I will be moving to the next page. So that I don't want as of now. And I am printing that text. Okay. Let's say I'm trying to create multiple. I am not able to find an element using just one attribute of CSS. And let's say for forgotten password, I am trying to use. Forgotten password is not having many of the values. So let's say I'm trying to go to create new account. So can you help me writing the customized CSS for create new account button? It's not a button, it's a link actually.
Tag name A.
Okay. What? Okay. A, then
You can take role or class.
role,
Class it.
role equal to button,
Button.
right? See, I'm getting four elements with this button role. So I will have to use other CSS or other attribute also of this.
Right.
So what can I use here?
ID is there.
ID. Yeah.
ID is there. Yeah. Should I use ID?
Yeah.
ID equal to yeah. Now I am able to get the create new account. Okay. So create new account and then driver dot find element by dot css. Let's say I'm clicking on this finally. Okay. Now let's run this. Yeah, we will see whether it is working or not. Seems this did not work. Yeah, no such element exception for this. Okay. Name and then let's say text equal to type equal to text. So here I'm getting 4 element and I want to use one more attribute here.
ID is there, no? ID.
Yeah, let's
Email
say
and
ID equal to email create. Okay. Let's try to send values to this. CSS. Yeah, this time it worked, right? So I have used multiple attributes for locating my web element using CSS. Got it?